Welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rudolph Okonkwo. This is the Skype call segment when we give you the chance to give us feedback on some of the programs and issues we've been discussing today. We are going to go to our Skype callers very soon, but I hope you've been enjoying our show. It's been very packed. We looked at the election postponement from different angles. We spoke to INEC spokesperson. We spoke to the military, the spokesperson for the military. We also spoke to Edwin Clark, who is representing the people from the Niger Delta, people who are looking for the sacking of Jega, the INEC chairman. We will hear your viewpoints on some of these things and also on the media chat, which gave us a lot of new lines on Jonathan. But before we do that, I want to introduce a guest who is here with me. You know him. He's a very known commentator on Nigerian newspapers and websites. Dr. Perry, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me once again.
Also, we are going to talk to Karen Attiah, who is with the Washington Post. She's the digital editor of Washington Post. She has been writing several articles on Nigeria recently, and we want to talk to her about that. Karen, welcome to Sahara TV.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you. So we start with, today happens to be Valentine's Day. I hope you don't forget. But we were supposed to have an election today too, but we start with Valentine's Day. And Karen, let me come to you. There's this tweet that you sent out there that is very fascinating. I propose a postponement of Valentine's Day. I need an extra 6 weeks to find a date. Why are you making fun of Nigeria?
But it is me that is in peril, you know, in the interest of emotional security. I just thought that giving myself some extra time, you know, might help my, you know, emotional situation in order to better prepare, so that, you know, it's for the good of everyone, really. If I find, if I find Valentine's Day company, I think. Global security.
Now, we spoke to the spokesman for the military, General Chris Olukolade, and he said something that I've not heard before. He talked about the international media and the way they criticize the military in Nigeria. And I'm thinking about your own media too. You're part of it. And he said that it's because there's an element of racism involved in how the international media are looking at the Nigerian military. You are there at Washington Post. Is that what is going on?
I would beg to differ. I mean, I think this isn't about racism. This isn't about, there are plenty of those, like myself, I'm part Nigerian, part Ghanaian, grew up here, that are very frustrated and very angry with the military's failure to counter Boko Haram, to even be able to contain them, much less counter them. So no, I think anybody looking at this situation, an army that has had a $5 billion security budget, an army that has a history of maintaining peacekeeping forces in other countries, has let Boko Haram fester for 5 years, almost 6 years now. I don't think that, you know, racism has much of anything to do with this. And the numbers, the reports of military men fleeing from Boko Haram, not having weapons, lying to the media, the military lying to the media, that's their.
Now, let me. This your latest article where the title is Nigeria's risky decision to postpone elections. And the first line says that Boko Haram latest victim may just have been Nigeria's national election. Explain that further. Do you think people are saying that it's really not about the security of the Northeast that they postponed this election? Do you think that's why they postponed it?
I mean, I think on first glance, just like I said, you know, Boko Haram has been rampaging in Nigeria, northern Nigeria, northeastern Nigeria for 6 years. There was always the threat or the fear that due to insecurity in those, especially in the most affected states, that voting could be delayed or not even hold. But, you know, I think a lot of people were afraid that this might happen, but with the INEC's, you know, reason for delaying the election, saying that there was an extra 6 weeks that was needed in order to fully rout Boko Haram, it struck myself as being a very suspicious decision, and very hard to believe that the military is promising to rout Boko Haram in 6 weeks when it hasn't been able to do so in almost 6 years. So it's it would appear to be so that Boko Haram, you know, has had obviously Boko Haram has affected Nigeria's political culture system right now. Security is now very much a part of the issues surrounding the election. But it is very, and the U.S. has said this, it does appear that there is an element of political interference with INEC's decision. And so it still seems fishy, the decision to delay the elections.
Okay, one last question. I really want to know, today, Wall Street Journal published a story where they interviewed the president, and he said that he's calling on U.S. to send troops to Nigeria. Mm-hmm. As someone who works with media, international media, what kind of access do you people have when you are talking to African heads of states, or when you are covering stories in Africa? Because there is a lot of premium attached to reports in international media compared to what we see when the local media is reporting the same thing.
Sure. I recall there has been some talk on Twitter, some reports on Twitter that actually a number of foreign journalists have not been granted visas, were not granted visas quite yet in time for the Nigerian elections, and there was some speculation that this was perhaps a deliberate attempt by some of the powers that be to bar foreign media from covering the elections. I can't speak to whether or not that is true. I mean, Nigeria, as evidenced by Goodluck Jonathan's PR offensive last year, it's clearly the international image is of some concern and of some importance. Otherwise, he would not have hired a PR firm for $1.2 million to help bolster his image last summer. But it's you know, it's also at the same time, there is still a sense that anytime that there is coverage from the international media that isn't completely favorable of Goodluck Jonathan's administration, you often hear that it's because, they're APC, or it becomes politicized. Any criticism of the administration becomes politicized, unfortunately.
All right, Karen, I really want to thank you for joining us, and I hope next time you will have time so that our Skype callers could talk to you and maybe ask you questions. All right, thank you so much, Karen. That has been Karen Attiah, who, of course, we know her here. And what do you think about the viewpoint about the international media and how they report Africa, which was raised by the general speaking for the military, that it appears that they want to put down Africa. They have a preconceived notion about how things are in Africa before they even get to Africa to write their reports?
I think it's a double-edged sword that points in both directions right now against the government, the administration we have in Nigeria, because one of the main things that can be denied is the credibility. Okay, this administration has lost a lot of credibility. But then the second part of it that comes to play is the fact that while on one side they accuse the international media, on the other hand, they feed and bow down to the same international media. So it's like they are being, they are hitting themselves on both sides. So for instance, when the elections were postponed, there was not a single media in Nigeria that announced the postponement ahead of international media. So you had Washington Post and AFP and AP actually announced credibly that this election was going to be postponed from early in the morning while Nigerians were still going around.
Yeah, and they mentioned the time, the new dates. you mentioned the new date.
They said for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So while Nigerians were going around having these meetings and, you know, acting like the decision was just being made, Nigerian, probably the PR firm that he hired, or these people, had already fed these same international media, and they had already publicized it. So we have a situation where, you know, our government only has itself to blame, and, you know, what they are talking about is, you know, they are creating something where they are the inventors of their problem, you know.
We are soon going to get our Skype callers to join our discussion. And our main point today, we are going to discuss the media chat, which happened on Wednesday, where the president took questions from reporters. And what is your impression of that media chat?
Jonathan's media chat was a farce, to say. You know, it was. I don't think anybody has to, you know, have been part of the organization of it. Just once you take a look at it, you know, it was pre-scripted questions, and he had really, really tried to rehearse the answers. So he came out trying to present himself as this simple man, you know, purposefully clueless. And he even exaggerated his cluelessness to the extent where he said, I was not informed, and, you know, about the postponement. And, you know, that is like, I think he's playing the clueless card. And, you know, that's his last, one of his last techniques he wants to use to try to, you know, steal this election from the opposition, you know, trying to be purposefully, proudly clueless. I was not informed about the postponement, whereas you staged the Council of State meeting for the very purpose of the postponement. And the rest of the media chat was basically to answer certain questions where he believes he has political problems, to try to, you know, whitewash, coat over them to make himself in a more appealing light. But I don't think he hit through to any new people, because, you know, people pretty much know, you know, people have died, you know, people have suffered, you know, the elections just got postponed. You can't just whitewash that with, you know, with a chat.
Now, typically when he's done with any media chats, we get new expressions, new terms, new joke lines for jokes. What is the line that appeal to you mostly from that media chat? Which one? Is it the goat and the yam, or?
To be honest, I watched that media chat. I watched it throughout, but I got caught up.
You were so disgusted.
I was appalled, because we are dealing with serious issues, you know, serious problems. And then, you know, you're listening to someone who's just, for instance, when he gave that whole thing about stealing and corruption, you know, he talked all that period, and at the end of it, my question was, so what did he just say? And that was the main thing I got throughout the media chat, was, you know, what is he, you know, what is this man saying? So I can't pick out a particular line, because the whole media chat was very, very depressing on all issues to me.
Now, one of the things he said was that it wasn't a big deal, that this idea of postponement of the election wasn't a big deal. We spoke to INEC people today, and they said that they had to, it was a tough decision for them. They understood the historical significance of that. And the same thing with Femi Falana that we just interviewed. He said that, you know, this is dangerous, because other governments coming in the future could use the same excuse and postpone any election if they want to. But to the president, it wasn't a big deal.
I particularly take the postponement of these elections as one of the most serious among other events that has happened in recent Nigerian history for several reasons. Basically, the way it was postponed was obviously a ploy to get it postponed without the premise. Normally you have a premise, then you take an action based on the premise. But in this particular situation, what they wanted was to postpone it, and then they created 3 different reasons. First, they said no PVC cards. Second, they come and then they say, you know, we're going to postpone it because we cannot secure the Northeast. And then Jega tells them, we don't need the Northeast in these elections per se. We've discussed this. The whole world has understood the Northeast is not going to be involved. That's only 17 out of over 700 local governments. Then they come with a third premise, saying we cannot even accord security to the rest of the country. So this was a coup. And I listened to Attorney Femi Falana, and he said it was a coup against the Constitution. No, a coup has started. So a coup doesn't have to end in a day, but the military just did a coup. And if perchance Buhari doesn't win, the coup started on February 7th. It was actually a complete coup that happened. It wasn't just a postponement of elections. There was a coup to reinstall a particular government against the desires of the people. And if the people do not vote as much, are not enthused or do not believe in the election, it's because the coup started February 7th. Jonathan and the military chiefs orchestrated a coup. That's how I see it. That's how serious it is.
Now, but this is something serious. To me, what is going on now? So we have until March 28th, 5 weeks. But it appears as if there are no campaigns going on. Everybody, what are the people waiting for? What is going on?
When you have an opposition, when you are in charge and you play the opposition, that's the advantage the Jonathan government is doing. Where you play your opposition, you frustrate them financially, you make sure their finances run out. You have unlimited, because you just dip your hand into the nation's coffer. So you oppress them financially, you oppress them based on time, because they do not understand when you want to do this. Whereas the Jonathan government has planned to postpone this election way before now. They knew they were going to postpone it. So you're playing your opposition. So basically, this is an autocratic. They are frustrating the opposition totally, and that is criminal and illegal, and they're taking advantage of being in power.
Mm. Yeah. All right, let's go to our Skype callers and get their inputs on this topic. I understand that we have Tina joining us from Nigeria. Tina, welcome to Sahara TV.
Good evening. Oh, good afternoon.
Yeah, it's nice to have you back. Kolijo, welcome to Sahara TV.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Rudolph.
Yemi, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tina, today is Valentine's Day. We were supposed to be voting for president, but we are not. How is Nigeria today? What's going on in Lagos?
Before now, people were not planning for the Valentine. People were ready to vote. People were rushing to collect their voters' card in the last few days towards the election. But since last week, the announcement has been made that the election has been postponed. The color red is flying, and people have to start rescheduling, changing their calendar. I'm very sure there's no wedding taking place today, because for you to have a wedding, you should have planned. So people were thinking they will vote today, but as there is no election, the election has been postponed for 6 weeks. People are trying to celebrate Valentine's. So red is flying everywhere here in Lagos.
Okay. Yemi, let me come to you. Last time we spoke, we were preparing for this election that was supposed to take place. It didn't happen. We've not talked to you since then. Are you disappointed? What's your reaction to that postponement?
Well, actually, I was in Nigeria for 10 days. I went January 10th to January 28th. And like what Tina said, everybody was really excited. They were looking forward for the election. I kept on asking questions around, do you have PVC? What are your challenges? Yeah, a lot of people, it was really, really very difficult for people that are working to, get their PVCs. So most of them give up. Most people that are working class, official guys, white collar jobs, they give up in pursuing the PVC, while common people, security guards, people selling granules, all those guys have the PVCs. And it's very sad that my mother got her PVC. She was looking forward for the election. Then all of a sudden, it was postponed. I think it's a great disappointment for Nigerian democracy, because the world was actually hoping and hoping for Nigeria to get it right. And I think what has happened is really sad, because we don't know what the incumbent government is planning, because it's just a calculated move by the present government. Because if you look at it, it doesn't add up. Why postpone the election? For what reason? Because of insecurity? We knew Boko Haram has been there for years. So in 6 weeks, if I'm just using that word, if they can resolve Boko Haram in these 6 weeks, that means the president should even resign, because that means he could have resolved this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, within 6 weeks. And people had to die all these years for it to be fixed in just 6 weeks. It doesn't add up. The only thing that adds up is maybe they are strategizing in order. Look at the video that came up with the audio tape with Obanikoro, how they rigged the election in Ekiti. They didn't envisage that. I feel the PDP government, the PDP government didn't know that the opposition would be this strong, and it came to them as a surprise. And the postponement of the election was just a reflex reaction to try and get their house into order.
All right, Collejo, let me get your viewpoints. The president said it wasn't a big deal. Why are people making this a big deal?
You know, the president sometimes, I just think he thinks he's talking to like those in kindergarten or those in primary one, that you know, you could tell them anything and they would just believe. Like how are you telling us a poem of insecurity? Even a dog in Nigeria knows you have a security problem. It's everywhere, and you're telling us about that right now, and that's the reason why you postponed the election. Meanwhile, we know the reason why you're postponing the election is that the strategy you put in place 2 years or 3 years before, it's not going to work now, and they're looking for something more defined, somewhat clean to make the election the origin in a way that we never even expect. So the plan is not ready yet. So that is what I feel, that they're trying to put those plans ready, put those machineries ready. So when they carry out everything, including the soldiers, because they're going to deploy a lot of soldiers in this. I don't know. They say we don't have our soldiers are not equipped, but you're going to see them equipped this time around. You're going to be wondering, oh my God, I don't know we have all this kind of equipment. It's going to come out from everywhere they are, and you're going to see the way soldiers are going to be everywhere. The same thing we saw in Ekiti. Because despite those Ekiti soldiers and everything, they still reach the election. So just imagine what will happen on a March 28th or whatever. That's if they don't postpone it again to probably April 28th.
All right, thank you, Collejo. Now look at, do you think that the mission, whatever the goal of the government, whatever the plan was to postpone this, do you think that it will work in their favor? Because they came out and said that postponement is now in the favor of PDP. Do you think that this is, at the end, they will have an advantage?
The way I look at it, I'll answer your question, but the way I look at it is it's a twofold matter. Of course, postponing is going to work in their favor because, for one thing, APC pushed their campaign. They don't have that much money. They pushed their campaign last minute and, dwindling reserves. They have dwindling funds. So the funds, there was this mojo that the people had. There was this drive. The drive died. Some people even started burning their PVC cards because I've given up. And a lot of people have given up. So they are sure that, the opposition, that drive, you lose that. You start to give up. You start to lose hope in the system. So they are confident in that working in their favor, that they are going to, the opposition is going to give up while they use money to bribe and, and buy more votes and buy PVC numbers, which is what they have been doing. So of course it works in their favor because they need time to manipulate their victory. But the second prong, the second aspect of it that that I think is most key is, to me, the situation in Nigeria already deserves international action. I don't think this is a situation where the country, the people of that country should be left in Jonathan's hands for even a day long. I've been on this position long before now. And with every passing minute, we keep on seeing Nigeria is going to this desperate edge where chaos is going to be guaranteed in that country. There will be chaos. So I think this is the mistake of the National Assembly. They should have impeached Jonathan a long time ago. So I don't just blame the president, I blame the opposition. I even blame Buhari because Buhari came out and said the next time you postpone the election will be a coup. That was in retrospect. This time was a coup. And something needs to start happening right now. I don't play games. I'm a physician. In what I do in life, I believe you do what you do in life seriously. I don't believe in playing games. Right now, Nigeria is sitting down and playing games on this. What would they do next? What would happen? You can't leave the lives of 170 million people, the most populous nation in Africa, under the games of some clueless monsters who lie, push, and impress INEC to postpone an election based on a false security premise. What security are they talking about? They have enough soldiers. On February 3rd, The same security chiefs had said, we have enough soldiers, we can continue what we are doing in the Northeast and secure the nation. Now you come out and say, we can't secure any part of the nation. The only thing they are looking for, they have enough soldiers to secure the nation for the election. In fact, soldiers are not, it's not their duty to secure the nation as a police, but they have enough. What they are waiting for is to finish what they are doing in the Northeast so that they can clean up their books. They think within 6 weeks we'll be fooled into thinking that, oh, they solved the Boko Haram problem, now he's done what he needs to do that he didn't do for 6 years. Then they need those troops to bring them to rig the election. So their postponement is to be able to get those troops to use to rig the election. They have enough troops to secure the nation. All
right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to discuss the media chat. And I'm sure most of you are excited about that because we want to hear what your perception of the media chat. And also we have Brigadier General Mohammed Adeka who will join us to talk about Boko Haram. We'll be right back.